the long-awaited Klingon Blood Wine.
Hi, I'm Brian.
I'm Derica, and you're watching City Steading Brews. Today, we're making, finally, Klingon Blood Wine. Now, if you've watched our podcasts, we have mentioned this a couple of times.
We even said it in a couple other videos, too.
Yeah, because we knew we wanted to make this, and we knew we wanted to actually brew it and not just do a mixed cocktail.
Yeah.
But other than that, we were kind of like,
By the way, if you occasionally hear, that is the acerglyn. It's over here. The desk of fermentation is full.
Brian's cup overfloweth.
It's right next to the beer. Anyway.
So we did I did some pretty in-depth research on Klingon Blood Wine, and it was interesting what they focused on and what they omitted in their description of
So we're going to talk a little bit about their descriptions and how some of it is just not possible.
But, you know, Brian is going to throw in logic here with his Vulcan side, and I'm going to remind him that this is a fictional beverage made from fictional ingredients that don't exist on the planet Earth.
Okay.
So there you go. All right, so the main descriptors of Klingon Blood Wine is that it's red, it's thick, it's normally served warm, and it is twice as potent as whiskey.
I'm going to start with the red. Red is easy. We have things here to make it red. Thick. I'm not making this thick. It's a fictional thing. I don't think it's going to be thick. Anyway. And then what was the third one?
Served warm.
Served warm. That's normal. Red wine is served warm.
Warm, room temperature.
Twice as strong as whiskey? Yeah. Okay, let me just start with this. Whiskey has to be 40% alcohol by volume in order to be considered whiskey, right? That's the weakest whiskey it can be. So if we go with their theory of twice as strong, and actually I think it was more than twice as strong, that would mean it would need to be 80% alcohol, which is 160 proof. While possible for a distilled beverage, it is completely impossible for a wine. Now, if you want to call it like a fortified wine, something like that, which we were going with that angle at one time too, sure, yeah, I guess you could do that. But by the time you get there, it's no longer a wine. It's actually the fortified beverage itself with a little bit of wine added. It's just not possible. It can't be.
Further descriptors were Worf's preferences were a young and sweet Klingon Blood Wine.
So that's where we're going with this.
And Martok's favorite vintage was 2309.
Since I am not a time traveler, and I don't know any time travelers, we could not actually taste the vintage that Martok preferred. So we're coming up with our own. Also, another thing, it's called blood wine. It's like Viking's blood, right? It's not really made from blood. It's just, it looks like it. So that's what I'm going with.
Because even in the realm of Star Trek, it is debated on whether it's actually made from blood or not.
They don't really know.
They don't even agree on that aspect.
Strange that the people who make the stuff don't actually know.
So,
but anyway, what we do know, though, is that if you try to ferment blood, it coagulates and gets nasty and disgusting. And I'm not doing that. So instead, we're going to supplement with other things. Now, I'm not saying that this is a true Klingon blood wine. This is my version, our version of a Klingon blood wine. This is just, we decided to make something that would be reminiscent of Klingon blood wine. So
we started to brainstorm, and we were thinking, okay, what could lead to those elements that are attributed to Klingon blood wine, and what could lead to elements that we mentally, the vision evokes would be in Klingon blood wine. So we're thinking something strong, something very tannic, something almost
spiced,
meaty and aggressive, not a soft, pleasant, but more a flavor forward.
Now, something else that we're going to do with this is going to be a step feed, meaning today, when we put the brew together, it's actually going to be pretty low on the gravity scale so that those yeast can really go to work and go dry. And then we're going to start adding sweetening along the way and other flavors along the way. This is probably going to be our most complex wine beverage thing ever. It's not mead. Sorry, it's not mead. There's no honey in this at all. But that doesn't mean it's not going to be good. I don't think honey would have added to this. I think honey would have just been another flavor component. When we get it going, you'll see what we're talking about. There's a lot. We have been talking for far too long, though. We really need to start brewing. Okay, to make this, we're starting with a base of Concord grape juice. Now, before anybody asks, this came from Costco, and the ingredients are Concord grape juice. Stop. That's it. So this stuff should be awesome. It's also a great base for my sweet red wine, which we've made, and that's where we kind of got the idea that this is the base for it. We're also going to be adding some espresso, 4 ounces to be exact. We're also going to be adding a bunch of raisins. Now, when I say a bunch, I'm actually using 106 grams or 4 ounces of dark raisins. Okay, you can use white raisins if you want to, but we're using dark for the color components. I'm going to also put in 2 cloves, 2 whole cloves. They're going to stay in a bag so they can be removed. We're using a star anise pod, which is like a licorice kind of flavor. It'll be interesting. Then we're also going to use a rather large cinnamon stick. That's why just one. I'm not breaking this up. I'm just going to put it in as is. Before anybody says those things all take over and they all are antibiotic, yes, you are absolutely right. They totally can take over and they are antibiotic. However, there's so much other stuff in here. The yeast is going to love this must. It's going to work out great. We are also adding a chili. Now this is a Thai red chili.
Dried.
Dried, obviously. Why did I use dried? Well, one, we didn't have any fresh ones, and I didn't really want to get one from the store and have pesticides and whatnot. So this is one of our chilies that I dried personally. I like the earthiness that this might add to it, while still keeping a little bit of the pepperiness without the vegetal aspect. So it should be a little bit sweet. So it should be a little bit hot, but it should add an earthiness, and it's more nutrient for those yeast. I mean, it's just going to soak it up and hydrate. This should be awesome. We are adding a pound of fresh plums that, well, pretty soon we're going to chop these up, take the pits out, and just make them into a mush. And on top of all that, to complement the grape, we're using twigs. That's right, we're putting sticks into this wine. These are from our grapevines. Now, they are in the dormant stage this year, at this time of year, so they're mostly brown. There's some green ends when I cut them. But what that's going to add is the tannins and a little bit more nutrient for the yeast. We want to give this yeast as much as it can possibly get, because on top of all that, we're using Lalvin K1V1116 yeast, which is an 18% yeast. You see where I'm going with this, right? It's a step feed. 18% yeast. Lots and lots of nutrient for the yeast. Basically, this will knock you on your butt. This is supposed to be strong. It's supposed to kick you in the face when you drink it. That's what we're going for here. So we're using heavy spices, strong flavors, but dark stuff so it comes out almost black. It should be really, really cool. We also have some things that we're going to do in secondary and things like that along the way that we'll get to, but that's another video. For now, let's get to brewing. Okay, so I chopped up our plums, and if you were curious, about that big. Just small dice. If you wanted to freeze them first, you totally can. I just had a bad memory of when we did something with peaches, and they were frozen, and they were disgusting, and no. So we kept them fresh. It's okay. A pound of plums, and I just took the pits out because I didn't really want to add that flavor to it. They get a little bit bitter and they can make like an almondy flavor. So I left everything else, and you can see it in here.
You did a rough chop on the raisins.
So at this point, what I want to do is this is all the things that are going to be going into the bag. So I'm just going to toss everything in. This is our pepper. I left it whole. I thought about cutting it up, but I didn't want it to over extract. Cinnamon stick, definitely don't want this to over extract, staying whole. Star anise, same story. And then the 2 wee little cloves. Though these 2 things are probably the most powerful flavorant going in here. And simple. Now what I want to do though, before I start adding things in here, is I want to get our yeast going. As I said, we're using Lalvin K1V1116. We've used it before. I used it in the original Viking's Blood, and it did a great job. What we found with this one is it keeps fruity flavors and things like that. It brings them to the forefront. It did go head-to-head against champagne yeast, the EC1118, and in a short period of time, it didn't do as well. But Paul Ellertson, one of our mods for our group and longtime City Steader, has said that over time he found it works much better than the champagne yeast. So I'm going to give it a try for this. This might be one of those long aging type of things. Who knows? It could also be we drink it young like Worf likes it, and we age some until, 2309, and then we drink it again. So I'm just going to use a half packet. Probably already know by now my rule for yeast usage is if you are doing up to 3 gallons, use half a packet. If you're doing 3 gallons or over, use a whole packet. If you're doing 3 gallons, take your pick. I'm just going to swirl this around a little bit. Get it mixed in. This is just hydrating the yeast. It's not completely necessary. I just like to do it because sometimes it foams up and it looks all cool. So what we have here is a boil-in bag. This is actually for making beer. Look at the size of this thing. It's ginormous, right? But today we're going to use it to hold all of these adjuncts that are going to go in here. Why, you ask? Well, because I think this is going to take longer than 2 to 3 weeks to ferment, and I don't want some of this stuff in there longer than 2 to 3 weeks. Plus, with the bag, makes it easier for cleanup, and it lets me keep it under the liquid a little bit easier just to prevent mold growth, things like that, even though it shouldn't. And I'm just going to dump it all in. Now, what's also in here was all the sticks, the twigs from the grape tree. I made them about half that size, the size that they were. I broke them roughly because we had already washed them, and I didn't want to contaminate them with maybe the cutters or anything like that again. And I wanted them a little bit smaller so they didn't like poke through the bag. All right, so that's everything that's going to be in the bag. So all I'm going to do is just seal it up, roughly. Just dripped all over myself because this was sanitized in
The red bucket of sanitization!
Just tying it into a loose knot. I mean, nothing too fancy. And I'm going to sit that in the bottom here. What I'm hoping to be able to do is as I pour the juice in, it'll fill in and soak this so that it'll stay on the bottom rather than float. It'll probably float anyway because that's just the kind of luck I have. Now, you might notice that I don't even have a scale or anything out today. You know why? Real easy. These are 96 ounces. That's 3/4 of a gallon. Okay, I'm using the 2-gallon bucket to make a 1-gallon batch. That's kind of important to know because this way I can regulate the amount of liquid actually going in here and probably end up with really a gallon. So that's why we're doing it that way. But real simple. From here, pour in my juice. Just right over the top of everything. Splishing and splashing all over the place. It's already a lovely red color. I was right, the bag floats. Gotta get out every drop. By the way, all that sediment and goop at the bottom, I probably should have shaken this up first. Oops. Oh well, because that's good stuff. You want that in here. Anyway, so I have a second one of those. I'm just gonna guesstimate roughly 1/4 of it. Probably make something else with the rest.
Do you want to shake that one?
I want to shake this one now. See all that stuff? That's like solids and whatever got left out or like fell out of suspension. That adds to the nutrition for your yeast, so it's kind of a good thing. I'm just gonna... I mean, if we end up with a little more than a gallon, it just means we get to drink more. I'd say that's about 1/4. Okay, coffee. Now, this is actually not coffee. This is espresso. It's probably double concentrated coffee if you really want to get that technical on the way this particular one was made. So if you have 2 ounces of strong espresso, you're good. Somewhere between 2 and 4 ounces should be fine. If you're just using regular coffee, I'd probably use more like 6 ounces or 8 ounces, which is really only a cup.
If you choose to use regular coffee, we would strongly suggest trying cold brew rather than hot steeped coffee.
Yep. Yeah, we did a coffee mead recently and we used cold brew. So today I thought, let's use espresso. It's a little bit more astringent. It's a lot more bitter. It actually will add a lot more of that mouthfeel, but it's much more acidic, which I think for this is more appropriate. So if you want to use cold brew, go ahead, but I really want to go for espresso. So I'm just going to pour it right in. Now, being that Klingons are a tribal kind of people, I thought, why not use a wooden spoon with runes to stir it? I thought just... Yeah, it seems effective. I'm just mixing this up. I'm making sure that all the liquid got through the bag and kind of aerating it slightly, just getting a little bit of the loosening things up so that nothing's stuck packed in the bottom of this. I got to tell you, so far it looks like blood. It really, really looks like blood. Like this is kind of cool, actually. Isn't there a song?
Stirring and
That,
stirring.
yeah. Okay.
Stirring my brew.
All right. Before I completely stir this into oblivion, I'm going to add our yeast mixture in, okay? It's called pitching the yeast. Rinse it out because there's some yeasties stuck to the side there. But you see, look at that. That's what it looks like. We're actually very excited about this one. We've put it off, not put it off. We've been researching this for a long time. A lot of people have been asking, and we wanted to get it as close to a cool and correct thing as we could do. So hopefully your patience will be rewarded. Now, the next thing I want to do is I'm going to take a reading on this because, as I said, we are step feeding this, which means it's going to change over time and we're going to add more fermentables to it over time. Like we said, that's the next installment. So first, I'm just going to take our base reading so we get an idea of what we're starting with. Now, another thing to note, because we put fruit in this, we aren't going to get an actual total accurate reading yet because some of that fruit is going to extract more. In general, fruit juices are not super high in sugars. Like this will be like a 1055 to 1060 most likely. Look at that, 1060 on the nose, like exactly. Let me just make sure. Yeah, 1060. So it sounds really low for a starting gravity, right? Well, you know, I learned something recently from Paul again, and he said when he likes to do step feeds, he tends to not let them go above, say, 1065 or so. That way he never stresses the yeast. I was like, oh, I see where he's going with that. If you make it really, really easy for the yeast, it might be able to go even higher than we think it should. So, all that's left now is to put the lid on. Put an airlock on. I'm going to talk to you about airlocks for a quick second, though. If you've never watched any of our videos, you might not know the wonders of the airlock. If you've watched our videos, you might want to see it again. Basically, an airlock is just a really safe way to keep bugs, pathogens, nastiness from getting into your brew. And this is all it is. There's a tube that starts here, goes up, goes down, and comes back up. It's kind of like the trap in your sink. Gases will come out. Now, as this ferments, it'll produce CO2 and alcohol. The CO2 builds pressure and pushes out. If you do not have an airlock and you just seal it, it'll blow up. It really, really will. Don't do that. Now, if it's plastic, it won't blow up. It'll just pop the lid off and probably spoil your brew. But what will happen is we have it filled to right there. As air gets in here, CO2, it'll push that side down. This side will be full of water. This one will be totally empty. That's called positive pressure. And you'll see little bloop bloops every once in a while. That's the CO2 coming out. That's
otherwise known as bubbles.
Yeah, bubbles. Bloop bloops, same thing. That's how you know it's working or doing something, okay? Don't count them. Don't write to me and say, mine's doing 12 bubbles a minute. Because you know what? None of that really matters. It doesn't matter. The speed at which it ferments is relatively immaterial, and it is not necessarily commensurate with the rate of bubbling. Okay? People will ask what temperature I'm fermenting at. Probably around 70 to 72 degrees. K1V likes it to be a little cooler, but hey, you know what? My house is what it is. I live in Florida. It gets hot here. I'm not keeping my air conditioning at 65 for the sake of one brew. I suggest you don't either. Just saying. How long will this take? That's a really, really good question. I have absolutely no idea. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I have a rough idea. Somewhere between 2 and 6 weeks. Let's just get right to it. First thing you got to do to get a reading is take the lid off. Now, this has been sitting since February 5th. Today is February 25th. That makes it 20 days by my estimation. I did give it a little bit of a shake every now and then. For the first few days, it was more often. And then after that, it got a little less frequent and a little less frequent. I think I shook it yesterday for the last time. Okay, as the lid came off, I was greeted with this lovely smell. Oh boy. Oh boy, this is going to be good. I do have one minor little problem with this though. I have to reach in there and get that bag out.
Do you want me to do it? I know you have a phobia.
Well, you got to lift it up.
Yep.
And hold it so it drains.
Yep.
It's going to be kind of heavy.
Yep. Gotcha.
Yeah, I would. Not my favorite thing to do right there. Now we want to be somewhat careful that we don't get too much oxygen in there, so keep it low, close to it, so it doesn't drip too much. I'm not worried about the dripping because we're going to put that in a colander and let it drip into a bowl that we can then return this to the thing. So if you want, just put it right into the colander bit. There we go. Now that bag is reusable. That fruit, you can compost it if you really want to. There's sticks and twigs and stuff in there too. So it's not really something you want to eat so much. But now I just touched it and I'm sticky. I gotta go wash my hands. So what we want to do now is rack what's here into a fermenter, and we're going to put it under airlock for secondary fermentation.
Now, when we say rack, we're actually not racking.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I'm trying to clarify for you
We're
guys.
not really taking it off the lease,
Yes,
is what she's trying to say. Like, I'm actually going to stir this up and then rack it over. It's literally just to get it out of this bucket at this point because we don't want that much headspace anymore. But let me take a quick reading on this. Okay, so our gravity is 1.002, which makes this very, very dry. But it also started at 1.060 and now it's 1.002. And you wonder, it's an awful low starting gravity. I mean, it's somewhere in, just off the top of my head, 9% or so alcohol, maybe something like that. So since we want this to be strong, we're going to now, it's not back sweetening. We're actually kind of just going to add more sugar to it to boost up that alcohol level. We're step feeding it, okay? That's the easiest way to say this. So what I'm gonna do first is pour this sample back in. Yeah. And we're gonna put that back into turbos. And then I'm gonna grab the bowl that has the bag of fruit, and I'm gonna pour that back in. Carefully, so as not to disturb everything again. And then I'll just let that sit for a few more minutes. It'll probably get a little bit more out. Now what I'm going to do is put half of this into here, and then we're going to add sugar, okay? Actually, I'm probably going to add sugar first because it'll be a lot easier. So that brings up an interesting dilemma. How much sugar should I add? Because the way it works is we would add up all of the points of gravity being used. So if I had 60 points, used already 58, and I added a pound of sugar, which is 46, that makes it like 104 points or like a 1.104 gravity. That sounds like a pretty good place to start. So I'm going to do 1 pound today.
So when you're weighing your sugar, make sure that you have your funnel or whatever you're going to use all combined on your scale and tear it out before you start. Because if you add your funnel later, then that's going to change your weight. Also, if you have a helper, me in this case, who's trying to steady things, make sure they don't actually come in contact because that's going to change the weight as well.
Now, there's a little bit of sugar still in this funnel because this was wet because it was sanitized. So it's not really a problem because I'm going to be pouring liquid in after. That's part of what she was talking about. Make sure you tear out the funnel too. Now, what I'm going to do, some people will not like this. I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to mix this up and then pour it in because I want the lees from the bottom. All right. So normally I would not do this because you usually want to rack off the lees. That's what Derek was trying to say earlier, and I completely didn't understand. Yes, I am a natural blonde. She was saying this isn't really racking. Well, it's racking, but it's not actually moving from primary to secondary fermentation. And it's racking only in that we are technically moving liquid. That's the only reason why this is racking at all. Normally you would not do something like this, but in this case we wanted to get those solids out of there, and we're adding more sugar. So this is a more complex brew than sometimes. So sometimes, you gotta adapt.
The main reason why we're doing it this way rather than just adding the sugar to that is that we need that vessel for something else.
Yeah.
And we want to minimize the headspace now that we've removed all of that solid fruit.
And now, she can now hold that funnel, and hopefully I don't make a huge mess. Okay. And now I'm going to do something else that's probably going to freak some people out. I'm going to put a stopper in this, and I'm going to mix this up. I'm going to shake the bejesus out of it. And you're probably asking why? Well, because I need to mix that sugar in. And why am I not worried about it? That's a really good question.
The reason why he's not worried about it is because technically this is still primary fermentation. And because we use K1V116, I got it right, yay. I cheated, I was looking. We know that it has plenty of alcohol tolerance left, so it should just kick right back up now that it's got sugar.
And there is plenty of CO2 in here. So all that oxygen that was in here that I forced into the liquid is being forced right back out. Oxygen is lighter than CO2, so it's forcing it out. Yeah. Degassing at this point is probably a decent idea. Wow, that sugar blended in nicely. All right, time for a funnel, and we're going to put the rest of the brew right in. I'm expecting this to re-ferment, just so you're aware. Pause for foam. Okay, so all that's left now is to take another hydrometer reading just to make sure my numbers are right, and then put the airlock back on. Okay, so it came out to like 1030, and I went, wait a minute, but I just added a pound of sugar. And I fell for one of the most common mistakes you could make, and that is I didn't actually stir my sugar in well enough. So that's going to make this a little bit more complicated now that I have this much liquid in there, but I have to do it. So I'm just going to set this to the side for a minute so I can have as much space as possible. And if you look, you can actually see it on the bottom. There's a good layer of sugar there that didn't dissolve. This is going to explode. Yeah, not so bad. Now we'll take another reading. So you see right there, taking the reading told me that I hadn't mixed it well enough. There's so many reasons to take these readings, and it's not really just about knowing how much alcohol you're making. So if it's all mixed in, it should come to 1048, which is what it's at. 1.048. That's never happened before, or it was like exactly where it's supposed to be. But yeah, 1.048. Because, 2 points plus the 46 points from the 1 pound of sugar, boom, 1048. So now we're going to put that back in there. I'll pour this back in here. Everything's been sanitized. There's really no need to worry about this sample. I do worry that I have very, very, very little headroom in here because this is still considered a primary fermentation, sort of an extended primary fermentation, if you will. So I do worry about that. And I think, well, you know what? If it starts up too heavily, I can always put a blow-off tube on it. Not a problem. So airlock. Back on, and there we go. What happens next? Well, it's going to go back to a darkened, kind of cool place, somewhere between 65 and 75 degrees in our house. That's Fahrenheit for all you Celsius people, it's right here. And we're going to give this probably another 2 to 3 weeks and let it do its thing. So we're always telling people to take a reading, wait a week, take another reading. And we never actually show that, which means we're probably not doing it because we show you pretty much everything that we do on camera. So in an effort to do more of a do as I do, not just as I say, we're going to take a reading on the Klingon Blood Wine. And in another week, we'll come back with another reading so you can see the difference and see where it's at.
So the last time we took a reading was February the 25th.
And today is March 26th. So it's been 4 weeks since we took our last reading. All right, so we're floating. And we're down to 992.
Oh.
So that means change of plans for today. We're going to sweeten this some more. It's time to step feed this guy. All right, so what I want to do is actually take a taste of this because even though we know we're going to sweeten this somehow, we have options as to exactly what we're going to use to sweeten. And this is blood wine, but it's also a fantasy drink, which means no one's ever made this before, and it can be pretty much anything we want. And I also want to say something. A couple of people got really angry with me on comments saying that I didn't use real blood, therefore this is not Klingon blood wine. I have news for those people. Klingons are not real either. Anyway, this smells interesting. There's foot. There's total foot. But I smell the fruit. I get the plums and the even a hint of the coffee. Oh boy, is that dry. But yeah, that's the dry wine face. It's got this amazing complexity of flavors happening here. I mean, you get the cinnamon. I get a little bit of the chili hit even.
Yeah.
The capsicumel's in there. The anise really didn't come through very much, which is good because neither of us really like licorice. The cloves, I think they're just adding a little bit of a to it.
It's more of a sensation than a flavor.
Yeah. It's really interesting. I'm actually very happy with it. I do want it to go sweeter than it is, though. So let's get set up for some.
I'm happy that the flavor is weird.
It is weird.
That's the best
It's totally weird.
description I can give it, and it's very impactful.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like, blah!
This is not like any wine that we've made.
And
that's the easiest way to describe
for something that's Klingon blood wine, it should be blah.
Yeah. See, now we have a choice to make. Last time we added 1 pound of white sugar. I think white sugar is far too bland and boring for this wine. Plus, I'll be totally honest, we're not on absolute lockdown, but we are in the house. We haven't left much, and I don't really want to have to go buy more. We have the least amount of white sugar in the house of other sweeteners. So, mother is the necessity of invention sometimes. We have brown sugar and honey to use.
We have molasses, too.
We have molasses as well. Molasses is known for needing a lot of age and not adding a lot of sweetness, but it does add flavor. So I'm a little hesitant on that.
We already got a lot of flavor going on here. So.
We also have maple syrup. So I was thinking I want to add roughly another 40 points to this, okay? Because I think it might be getting close to the yeast tolerance. Okay, so I did a little calculating, and here's how you calculate a step feed, okay? We started with a 1060. Right now, it is at 992. So what we have to do is we say 1060 plus the difference of the two in between readings. So that was 1002 to 1048. We added 46 points. Now, this isn't completely exact because as the gravity goes up, more alcohol is produced. There's a little bit of a discrepancy, but it's not that great. This will be within a couple points of accurate, okay, just to give you an idea. So it started at 1060. Right now it's at 992, but along the way we added 46 points in sugar. So that means our initial gravity would be the equivalent of a 60 and 46 is 1.106, right? And it ended at 992. By my calculation, that is 16.2% ABV right now. We used Lalvin K1V1116. So this still has 2 more percent to go on its alcohol tolerance if the yeast wants to play nice and stick to that 18% number, but they don't know what's on this paper. They don't know what they're supposed to do. So
they're Klingons now! Rawr!
Yeah, let's go with that. So what I was thinking is we'll add another pound of sugars and see what happens, okay? No worries there at all. So we're going to be adding basically another 46 points to this. Derica had an interesting idea with the molasses. I like the flavor. I think the molasses would enhance the flavor of this, but I didn't want to use pure molasses. I wanted brown sugar. I think that's the way to go. So we got some brown sugar here. So very simple.
Oh, you need a dry
thing. Got to use a funnel for this one. So now we have a bit of a quandary because I do want to add the sugar, but a pound of sugar takes up some space. If you notice, it's not a lot of headspace there. So what we're going to do, we're going to remove some. Now some of this might end up right back in here in the next 10 minutes, but this has been sanitized in
the red bucket of sanitization.
She's been waiting to do that. I just knew it. Now,
and those of you that hate my doing that and you hate the animation, I'm so sorry. You're just gonna have to deal.
Also, some comments have been made. Some people don't mind it, but it was the volume. If you noticed recently, it's been lowered because it annoyed me too. So I lowered the volume.
Yes.
So we have our pound of brown sugar added in, and the observant among you might notice that I didn't tear it out after I put the funnel in. We realized that and rectified that situation. So there is an extra pound. It's really close to a pound. I was starting to get worried about the headspace, so it's actually a little bit less than a pound, but we're gonna take a reading, so it won't matter. But first, I gotta mix. But guess what I have now? We found it. The thumb saver stopper, also known as a solid bomb. That way I can put it in and shake with impunity. My thumbs will thank me. That's been a problem. So, those of you who are worried about oxidization, okay, some people probably are right now, do not be because of that. I saw it coming, she had no idea. That was awesome. There's a lot of gas in here, so, and the very little bit of oxygen room that there is, I am not in the least worried. If left, this will just pop right off. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. It keeps spraying her too. It's not getting me though.
I'm glad I'm wearing black today.
So I'm shaking this up, but I'm not going to be super concerned. I think I got most of that sugar, but all the yeast colony that's still in here is working, and it's going to start working again. And put that in turbos. I'm going to go wash my hands. I'll be right back. All right, so now that that's in there, I'm going to take another reading. And I think I shook it up pretty good. It's brown sugar. It mixes in fairly easily. Everything was resanitized. So let's take another reading here. Being that it was 15.7 ounces or something crazy like that. So we're 0.3 ounces away from 46 points here. So I'm guessing I probably got like 44, 45 points, somewhere in that range. So our new gravity reading is now, oh, because it was at 992. So I just brought it up to 1.022. So we actually added 30 points. That doesn't sound quite right. Maybe the brown sugar has less sugars in it. I'll have to find out and let you know. It's also possible I didn't mix it thoroughly, which is actually okay. The yeast will get to that. I'm not worried about that. I'm going to pour this back in. Everything's been cleaned. We're still in a primary fermentation. You saw all that gas coming out. This is fine. Now what we're going to do, I'm going to put an airlock back on this. It's going back over on the floor. It's going to sit for a while, probably another month, and then we'll check it again. So today we're going to take a reading and see if it did anything more, see if it fermented more. If it did, we'll take a taste and see what to do about it. So as always, got my graduated cylinder, hydrometer, and a baster.
We have found the technique of keeping the hydrometer in the graduated cylinder while adding the liquid limits the spillage.
Limits, but does not eliminate. I can still spill it. 1022. So this is done. That means it had actually reached the tolerance of the yeast already. So when we added more, there was nothing left to ferment. It just didn't have any more room to go. It has the equivalent of starting at a 1.135 original gravity and ending at 1.022 or 17.5%. It's like 17.47%. I mean, it's something silly like that. It's 17.5% alcohol by volume, which is half a point shy of 18%. Let's not tell the yeasts.
You done good.
Some people will say that it's stuck. I disagree. They're within a 0.5% of their tolerance. They're done. And the fact that it didn't keep going means they're finished. It's just, it's okay. So I'm going to pour some of this off into a glass here, and we're going to take a taste. We do this taste not really to get a full flavor profile. Try saying that 3 times fast. But instead to get an idea of what this could become. Do we need to make an adjustment to it? Does it need something added to it? I'm just going to give it a little swirl around. The color's really nice. It's not quite clear, but it's pretty clear. It's like an 8 out of 10.
Now, the reason why we added brown sugar rather than white sugar is that typically, at least in our supplies, brown sugar is just white sugar that's had molasses added back to it, rather than a less processed white sugar, which is unfortunate, but hey, that's what it is. But we know from studying sugars that molasses and treacle sometimes give rum-like flavors to fermented beverages. Mm-hmm. So we were hoping that would be imparted onto
just a little more complexity,
because I think that would be a nice addition.
Okay, if I was giving foot ratings, this is like a 1.5 feet. I mean, it's footy. On the smell, I have not tasted it yet. It's young. This is still green. We started this in February. This is nothing to worry about. I knew this would be one of those, this might take some age.
Yeah, at first...
It's not that bad, though. When I say 1.5 feet, I'm exaggerating. It's really not that bad.
At first, it reminded me of a capsicum, because it felt like...
Well, there's jalapeno
in it. There's Thai chili.
Thai chili, yeah.
Which I was getting more of the almost vegetable, so I thought it was jalapeno. That's why I was checking the chart, but it's dried Thai chili, so that might be my mind trying to figure out what that footnote was, and I'm like, oh, I know there's chili in there, so maybe it's jalapeno. Well, it's not. But
notice what I just did. I poured it into there rather than into there. That way I don't make a mess. Been stirring up lease and stuff lately.
All right, I'm going to be brave and take a sip.
Ooh, here we go. That was a hell of a face. Bad?
The first time we tasted this, there was a lot of complexity going on. It still has complexity, but that Thai chili came to the forefront.
I would not call it super spicy, but the Thai chili is definitely in there.
It does the weird little...
This is pretty awesome.
It is pretty awesome. If you like If you enjoy capsicum smells, I think you will love this.
The cinnamon and anise have really upped it too. They really work. The cloves, yeah, definitely. The raisins, are there raisins in here? I don't know.
I'm getting a very complex flavor profile.
Oh my god.
I'm saying
this
everything.
This is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
This is okay, I expected to make some sort of grog that was gonna kind of be like, oh, it's nice and strong, but no one really wants to drink it because it's Klingon blood wine.
No, I want to
No,
drink
this is actually quite nice.
This is nice.
Even on the back, like breathing out, I'm getting the cinnamon and the clove back. It's really cool. Let's rack this though. Let's get started on this. So this is the first actual racking of this wine. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna take it off the lees that's in there and let it start clearing out. It's already quite clear, which is really cool. This was Yeast, it was K1V yeast. So it's supposed to be a relatively good yeast for clearing out quickly and that sort of thing. But what I want you to notice as this goes, we need elevation. Or this isn't gonna work. I'll just put it on my lap. I want you to notice the color of this. It's got that beautiful blood red color, which that's what we wanted. We had actually talked about adding other things to this, like more fruit after the fermentations, things like that.
Yeah, we have quite a few grapes in our freezer that was intended for this, but I don't think it's necessary.
I don't think I want to change it.
No.
I like it the way it is. It's just sweet enough to overcome the spiciness from the cloves and the cinnamon and that pepper, and the fruit flavor comes through. Like it's a spiced fruit with heat.
But I think it reads more plum than grape, and that I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, the plum definitely comes through. So, you know, that whole prune plum thing. Yeah. By the way, a lot of people were saying, oh, you should have used prune juice in there because then it'd be the drink of warriors. Yeah, well, guess what? He drank prune juice. He didn't actually drink fermented prune juice. I made fermented prune juice once. Notice I didn't call it prune wine because it wasn't. It was disgusting. It was not something I would ever drink. I will say this, though. The smell will betray you on this one. It does not smell great. It has a strong, I think I'm getting a lot of ethyl smell from it, as well as I think the combination of all the spices and, like she said, that Thai pepper gives an odd smell. It wasn't exactly foot, but it smelled kind of footy. The taste, no foot. It's clean. It was a nice, clean, wonderful fermentation. I can only imagine that as this ages, it's going to be that much better. So the lees from this one, what I think I'm going to do is I'll make another wine or something from it, or mead. So what I'm going to do with this guy is I'm going to shake this up and try to get all the lees off the bottom, okay? I want it to go back into solution, because what I'm actually going to do with it is not put a brew directly on this. I'm going to test a theory. I'm going to pour this into a mason jar and put it in the fridge. See if, can I store it for a couple of weeks and then try. So something interesting, as I'm smelling this, I get like that fruitiness, but then the next smell, I kind of get the alcohol and the almost footy, but that fruit is still coming through. I'm wondering if perhaps a lot of the gases came out from us mixing it up, and now that smell is dissipating and it's just down to the real fruity smell. So I'm just going to put the lid right back on this guy with an airlock, and I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to let this sit for at least 3 months because I think it needs that to meld all those flavors. I mean, the espresso in there is not super strong, but I definitely noticed it, and it added the tannic quality and things like that. I want all these things to meld together just a little bit better, but I'm kind of happy we're not making adjustments to it. It didn't need an adjustment. That's kind of cool.
So now it is on to conditioning stage, where it's just going to set and let all its juices flow.
Today is a good day to bottle.
Kapla!
All right, the first thing I'm going to do is take its final reading. And, you know, I just have to take the cap off. This is the first time this cap's been removed since the last time we did a video on this. Just so you're aware, we don't do things off camera just to kind of do the smoke and mirrors thing. No, everything is real. And a lot of people have asked, can't you just take the hydrometer and drop it right in your fermenter? Yes, you can, as long as your fermenter is large enough. As you can see, this would not work. I won't get an accurate reading that way. There's not enough liquid. So I use a graduated cylinder. People have also been asking, why don't you just use a wine thief? Well, technically I am. I mean, it's in the form of a turkey baster, but it is basically a wine thief. In a bottle like this, it's not as critical. You could use anything you want. The wine thief that I have is large, cumbersome, and its diameter is far too large for some of our other fermenters. So I just use this one. It's no big deal. Okay, this is very odd. we seem to have made an inaccurate record somewhere. I'm okay admitting that because, we're human. We make mistakes. We recorded a 0.992 gravity. Then the next note says 1.022 plus 1 pound brown sugar. Now, I can't imagine how we got from 992 to 1.022 without adding that sugar. Therefore, I believe the brown sugar was added before that gravity was reading, but I think that gravity reading is inaccurate because today it is reading 1.038, which is a full 16 points higher than the last reading. However, what do we know about sugar? We know that 1 pound in a gallon of must is about 0.046 gravity. Well, it went from 0.992 to 0.022. That's only 30 points. So where'd the other 16 points go? Right there. So I read a hydrometer wrong. See, everybody does it. I don't know why they make them the way they do, but I'm okay with this. And I'm telling you guys the truth because I must have made a mistake. There is absolutely no way I didn't. 16 points, it equals out. It should have been 16 points higher. It is now. There you go. So every once in a while, you just kind of got to go along with it. You got to realize something, folks. We're doing all this on the fly. I have to think about what I'm doing, think about what I'm going to say next, make sure that I don't say something stupid that people are going to pick on me or make a meme about, and still do the real thing along the way.
Also, we are human.
Speak for yourself. But anyway, this is at 1.03, what did you say? 8. 1.038. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing here. I am actually all right with that. Some people say that that's a super, super sweet wine and things like that. And you know what? I like super sweet wine, so sue me. But I'm going to pour a little bit off here to the side, and we'll give a taste on that later. Being that it was supposed to be 16 points higher, and it is, and that was back on March 26th, and it is now June 3rd, I'm going to go with it's done. It hasn't moved even 1 gravity point in 2 months. We're fine. I'm not going to pour this back in here because if I do that, it could stir up any least that might be on the bottom. So the next step that we're going to do is we're going to get a pitcher out and we're going to rack this out of this bottle. There's a good reason for that. I don't like to have to worry about the least at the bottom. This is a very, very, very dark brew. I can't see it. So if we get it off that least, put it into a pitcher, now I'm not worried about anything that might have gotten stirred up when we bottle. We have a new crew member today. It's called the Bucket of Elevation. Wibble, the white bucket of elevation. I need to make a new cartoon now. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're just going to take this and we're going to put it on top of Wibble, and it should sit nice and flat. The reason you want to elevate is because anytime you are racking, you need your source vessel to be higher than your destination vessel.
Hopefully, Wibble does not wobble.
But he won't fall down. All right, and just put that in about halfway, put this to the bottom, and give it a couple of longer strokes. I want to use longer strokes for this. However, I think the seals on our particular auto siphon are starting to go. So shorter strokes tend to work a little bit better, but 3. All it took was 3. How many licks does it take to get to the net? And we're just going to rack this off. Now, we're using this bucket because A, the method of putting it in my lap and everything, you couldn't see what we were doing. And B, this gives us just about the perfect height, and we have these laying around. So it just made the most sense. Rather than coming up with some contraption, just use a 2-gallon bucket. It doesn't even have to be white. Oh, all this, I'm going to pour that into this pitcher rather than back into that one.
We don't have to worry about cross-contamination. Why? Because all these things have been sanitized in the red bucket of sanitization!
All right, so racking is done. Not a lot of waste, maybe about that much at the bottom. There's a tiny film of least at the bottom that we really didn't want to disturb, so we left that there. I'm okay with that. Look at how close to a gallon this is. Maybe I need to do a test on my wide mouths to see if they really are a gallon anymore. Maybe they got bigger. They grew. That's what it is. They grew. All right, so now we're getting ready to bottle, which basically means the same idea. We put this up on Wibble, put our bottle over there, get the auto siphon ready. And for this, I'm also going to use a bottling wand, which if If you've ever seen any of our bottling videos, you know what this is. It is literally a switch, okay? It has a springy thing in the bottom here, and that is the technical term. And when that pushes against the bottom of the bottle, the liquid flows. When you let it go, the liquid stops. That way you have control. You want to put this on your auto siphon only about yay far, maybe that much. Because any further, and it's going to be almost impossible to get off later, any less, and things may happen in the bottling process.
Bad things.
So I'm going to start by sticking this end in here and this end in here. And because we made sure to rack this to a pitcher, I can put it all the way to the bottom with no worry at all. In order to get it started, though, you do have to push down, or else you will pump that all day long and nothing will happen. So just go ahead and get it started. You may notice that Wibble now has a protective coating of a towel because we realized that things slid around just a little bit on him. And I didn't really like that. Also, these bottles are a new thing for us. We're trying these out. We just got them. They are on Amazon. There's a link in the description below. They are a screw top bottle on purpose because we realized a lot of our still being not carbonated, we didn't need swing tops and they're a lot more expensive. So these bottles were cheaper, and with the plastic cap, I can see these lasting for a long time. My initial impression is they're thick enough, heavy duty enough that they should last you for years of use. You can probably get new caps for them too. I'll have to check into that. When you're bottling, don't be afraid. Let it go all the way up into the neck and you'll see in a moment. I like to have another bottle ready for that moment. And as it gets there, here it goes, here it goes. Not yet. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it, and now. See what happened? It took up some of that liquid. So by letting it go all the way to the top, it's a little nerve-wracking when you first start doing it.
This is what we call displacement.
Yeah. By doing that, though, see how it's just into the neck of the bottle, just past the shoulder? The least amount of contact we can possibly have, therefore not as likely to turn into vinegar. However, something of note, this is at least 16% ABV, which means, because it's past 15%, not a lot of acetobacters can actually operate. They start getting weaker at 10%. This is something we've learned just recently, that you really can't make vinegar past 16% alcohol. Who knew, right? Someone told me that, and I looked it up, and they're actually right. Acetobacter doesn't like to work anything past 10%. So it makes it much more difficult to make vinegar. Therefore, oxidization is not as much of a worry in higher proof meads and wines. And bottling is now done. We spared you the gory details of watching us fill each and every bottle. When you get towards the end, there's always going to be like a little odd. It's kind of hard to get exactly 5 bottles or whatever, because a gallon is 3.785. This is a US gallon, by the way. There's been some confusion. 3.785 liters, which would come to about 5 bottles plus 10 milliliters. I have never actually had that happen. So in this case, we got 4 750s and 1 16-ounce. This is actually a beer bottle, but it makes a nice single serving size for wines too. Anyway, we had a little bit left over. I poured that into our tasting glass. So we have a decent amount to taste.
It's time to taste the Klingon Blood Wine.
Kapla! And we're just going to pour a little bit of this out. Even though it's called wine, it felt weird putting it into wine glasses. Want more?
I do want more,
Just
but
seems like kind of a weak pour.
it's early. So let's leave it at that for now.
There you go. Now you have more. The reason we don't do a whole big pour on this is because, this probably isn't the only tasting we're going to be doing today. Now, our version of Klingon Blood Wine had a lot of things going on in it, okay? There's coffee in here, there's espresso, there's a capsicum version, there's honey, there's sugar, there's apples, there's plums. There's so much going on in this. But in the end, when we did the bottling, we really liked it. So I'm expecting big things today.
So to start off, we have this gorgeous, deep, dark red color. And when you look down into it, you can see that it's actually very clear. But when you try to look through it...
Yeah, it's actually quite clear.
It is thick.
It's kind of got a little bit of an amber red going on.
Yeah, it looks like
A
blood.
little bit.
I
So,
was trying to think of a delicate way to say that, but it looks like blood.
on the smell, I definitely get like the apple grape thing going on. Like I can smell cinnamon in there.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing. What your brain perceives as flavors and aromas isn't necessarily what's in there. This is what I'm perceiving.
Now, because I know what we put in
I
this.
forget what we put in this.
I'm hunting for those things. So I'm trying to just forget and pretend like I don't know anything about this to give you a
I
more...
get cinnamon. I get clove. I actually get strawberry. And then it's got like, our sweet red wine, how that has like a tartness almost.
I get like dried fruit. Where like...
Prunes.
Warrior's drink.
They're more concentrated and almost smoky, but smoky isn't the right term
Prunes.
for it.
There's no prunes in this. There is plum in this, though.
Yeah.
There's whole plums.
We thought about putting prune or prune juice in it because of Worf, and...
But that has nothing to do with blood wine.
But it has nothing to do with blood wine.
That's why we didn't do it.
So.
But a lot of people thought we should have.
All right, I'm going in for a taste.
Yeah, I'm going in. Oh. Wow. Wow. That's just really, really good.
It's delightful. There is such a complexity to this that...
But it's also upfront slightly aggressive. Like, it's so powerfully
yeah.
flavorful. It's not like painful to drink, but there's so much flavor in it. It's really amazing.
I get
I need
sweetness
more for science.
And then I get spice, and then I get the peppery note from the chili, and I'm getting the tannins.
It's got a really nice tannic quality and astringency. It's not overly strong.
No.
It doesn't make your mouth go, like that. It doesn't do that at all. It doesn't make my tongue feel dry. It's actually quite sweet without being cloying. It's not, it feels very thick and rich in your mouth.
Yeah.
It's very coating, but as you can see, it's just as liquidy as anything else.
It's not like the icky coating, like cough syrup coating.
No, it's more just, it's such a powerful taste that it really coats your whole mouth.
In reference to another YouTube channel, I dare, it's like a warm blanket.
Okay, so we went there. All right.
Also, to quote my dad, it's like a party in my mouth because there's just so much going on.
Okay, her dad also says it makes his tongue happy.
Yes.
So there's that.
And this is in reference to beverages. No.
Yeah, we don't go there. Overall, I would say easily for the last like 20 or 30 that we've made, one of the best with ease. It's so unique that it's hard to categorize.
Yeah.
I would put this more with like the elderberry, the hibiscus, stuff like that as far as flavors, but it's much, much stronger flavors than them, and it's less
If I want
fruity.
to compare this to something that we've made before, I would compare this to the accidentally capsicumized
Yes,
elderberry?
very
Was
much
it the
like that.
elderberry that we did
It was an elderberry that accidentally got capsaicin in it. We're still not entirely sure how, but it happened.
Capsaicin is an oil, so who knows?
I would also say that if you took our sweet red wine, added capsicum to that, and poured in a little bit of the coffee mel, that would probably be the closest thing to this you could make. But even then, it's not the same because there's more going on here. Those flavors melded together really, really nice.
But this is really impressive, and I'm not just trying to be like, "Woo, look at us." I
agonized over this recipe.
I didn't know what to expect from this, and we did a lot of brainstorming on what we thought, what visions.
We went back and forth
Klingon
for
Blood Wine
probably
evoked.
6 months on this before we actually decided to make it. We sat down and looked at every single thing that people were making on YouTube and in articles on how to make Klingon blood wine. They were all cocktails.
Yeah.
Every single one was a cocktail. And I was okay with that because I took some of their ideas. And then we researched what Star Trek says Klingon blood wine is, which, believe it or not, there was less information than in the YouTube channels. A lot of people were making stuff up just to make stuff up. So we went with the fact that it's supposed to be super strong and very aggressive, but it's also supposed to be sweet when it's young.
And this has still got sweetness in it.
This is still sweet. I would love to see what this is going to do when it ages. Now, we were hoping for something higher ABV, like 18, 20%. All right, 15. I'm okay with that because at 15%, this will knock you on your butt. I mean,
Sure.
this is like drinking fruit punch with coffee in it. You know?
And unfortunately, for somebody like me, when I'm really enjoying the flavor profile of a beverage, I tend to drink it quickly and a lot of it.
Yeah.
And I could see that happening with this.
Very
and
easily.
At that 15%, that would be problematic.
Now, I mean, if we really wanted to just knock this out of the park and make it super alcoholic,
We just throw some
fortify
Everclear
it. Throw
in
some
it.
Everclear in there. You can make this 30, 40, 50% if you want to, which is kind of dumb. But it can be done, and I'm not calling the person doing it dumb. I'm saying the idea is kind of dumb because it's actually quite balanced right now.
Yeah,
It's
I'm afraid that
really
if you
nice.
just, you would be watering it down.
Yeah. I see it like this. If you want to drink spirits, drink spirits. You want to drink something that tastes good, drink something that tastes good. They don't always combine, but sometimes they do. That didn't even make sense in my head. But it sounded better in my head than it came out. So let's just...
The
I'm gonna leave
more
that.
I'm drinking this, the more the capsaicin is coming through.
Yep.
But normally for me, I don't appreciate getting a lot of the capsaicin.
Yeah.
But there's so much else going on that works well with that note that I'm not minding at all. I'm enjoying it.
It's just a mild capsicum note. It's not very strong at all. And I say capsicum, this isn't a mead. This is a wine. So it's just a mild chili flavor in there. It's just almost like a little tinge of backbone. If I didn't tell you it was there, you might not realize it was there at all, is my feeling on it. I don't really taste it all that much. Just it's like a minor little tinge at the end there. But overall, this is
So what would you drink this with? What would you pair it with?
putting my feet up and sitting back. This is not, to me, this is more of an experience wine, kind of like some whiskeys, where I don't know that I would enjoy this with food as much as on its own, which is unusual for me to say. I normally drink wine and mead with food, and I enjoy it much better.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in here, and I think if you pair it with a strong food,
Red meat.
but a nice
a
steak would be good. But there's this other thing that's floating in my head that I can imagine pairing this with,
Chili.
and that is like a Asian pork soy noodle dish.
Yeah, this was surprising. I thought it might be tasty. I was expecting it to be a little more of a kind of thing when you drank it, but it really isn't at all. It's powerful though, like
Oh, sure.
easily twice as much flavor as a typical wine has.
Yeah, if you have a really delicate palate, this might be a little overpowering for you
Yeah,
because there is so much packed in there.
we named it Klingon Blood Wine, so yeah.
But I could just keep on going on about how much I like this, but I really, really like this.
Kabla!
Klingon Blood Wine after 1 year. Now this was good before. It's one of Derek's favorites. How is it now? Well, let's find out. This is 15%, by the way. And it is a little over a year because this was bottled 1 year ago. And yes, that is just a screw cap. Nothing fancy. But let's pour some. Ladies first, as always. Pretty color. I'll tell you what, it lives up to the name, blood wine. But we know what you want to see. So yeah, it's red.
Somebody may have found other bottles of this particular beverage, and somebody may have drank some of it last night.
Oh, jeez.
Just saying.
She cheated. No fair. She has advanced knowledge.
So it is super dark. It is again
clear, though.
those jewel tones that I love so much. Thank you, VIP member. I forget your name. I'm so sorry. I'll have to go check again.
I saw that.
But you remembered that I like it, and your beverage was gorgeous. So it's so
It's blood.
yeah. And
It really is.
because it's so dark and it's clear yet viscous. Is that a thing?
Viscous is how thick it is.
Yeah, but it's like it's
It's so dark that you can't see through it.
yes.
But it is actually clear. When you get to the edges, you can totally see.
Oh
through it.
yeah, yeah. So I was trying to find a word that means it's clear but not, and Viscous was the only word I can think of, but that's a texture thing, not a visual
Yeah.
thing. So what the heck, Derica?
Smell it. Smell it. This has probably the most complex smell of any brew we've made.
It is so good. This is so good that honestly, I wish I actually did speak Klingon so I could just sing its praises to you in the proper tongue.
In the smell, there's so many things going on. I get clove. I get a little bit of the spice. Definitely getting some cherry notes. Dark, deep fruit.
It's
Honey is there. The honey character is strong. A little bit of ethanol even. But then I get almost like a sweetness, like a cotton candy sweetness almost. Wow, so much going on. Cinnamon. I
yeah.
get cinnamon too.
Yeah.
Even a little bit of anise. I don't even remember what's in this anymore. Okay.
There's pretty much everything in here.
Yeah, we put a lot of stuff in this.
And because I know it's in there and I'm hunting for it, I can even get the chili.
I said spice. I got like the capsicum jalapeno
Right.
kind of
Sometimes spice is translated
thing.
to...
Oh, I meant like the jalapeno chili smell.
Yeah.
Anyway, short sip. Now, a short sip is to acclimate your palate. This is a 15% alcohol. So if you just take a long sip of it, it might not taste really good the first time. So you take a short sip, just get it in your mouth, swallow it right down, acclimate. But it does give you some indication of what it tastes like. Oh, wow. All the things that I just described in the smell come through in the taste.
And one of the things that I really
More fruity than
enjoy
I expected.
about this is that in the mouth, it's just this cornucopia of
Yeah.
fruits and spices and just all this wonderful stuff. And then when you exhale, it's that pepper note.
The chili. Yeah.
It's just...
It's not spicy per se.
No.
In the back of the throat, I get just a little kick.
Yeah.
Not much at all. Just
Yeah.
a little tiny kick. But it's much more fruity than I remember. A lot more fruity than I remember. It's like a spiced fruit. It tastes like a mulled wine with a little bit of jalapeno in it.
Yep. Yeah.
It's just really...
It's very complex. There's a multitude of layers, and that's probably one of the reasons why I get so happy about this particular beverage is that I love complexity. I love layers.
She likes ogres.
Apparently, I am an ogre, or I have a
She likes ogres.
like for ogres.
And onions, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Time for the long sip. Now, in the long sip, you do what Derek is doing. You take a long sip, you leave it in your mouth for a while, you savor the flavors, and then you get more out of it. All right. There's so many things going on there. I'll go first, just because she's going to keep sipping. On the entrance, I get a hint of honey right away. Then I get fruit, like the dark fruit and cherry flavor. And then I get the tannic qualities from like the cinnamon and the anise and things like that. A little bit of a, not bitter in a bad way, but the bitterness of that tannin comes through. It gives you a nice, like you feel it in your mouth. You know there's something there. Then as I swallow, tiny little bit of the capsicum from the chili hits. And then I still get the honey flavor with it. And honey and chili are the most incredible things together. Capsicum is an amazing thing. And this is just this is a very complex capsicum is really what this is. And I said that totally bad. Very complex capsicum. Yeah, say that 4 times fast.
Well,
Well, it is.
I don't think there's actually honey in this particular beverage. I don't remember the recipe.
I taste honey. I don't care.
But I'm not getting the honey, but part of that is
Maybe I'm
because-
just getting the fruit and sugar sweetness then.
Yes. I'm definitely getting sweetness, but I'm not attributing that
Can
to
you tell we
honey.
don't review the other videos before we make these?
But for me, I'm just getting super
Now I have to
juicy,
look to see if I get
rich, like almost overripe fruit. And it's all the dark fruits. I get plum first, and then it moves into the cherry region. And then there's like a little tinge of apricot. And if you think about it, when you eat apricot, it has like that extra bright kind of bitey essence to it. And so there's like a little bit of that in there too, where plum to me is very smooth and velvety and mellow. So that's all the different ranges that I'm getting fruit wise.
I still get honey. I think you're right. There's no honey in this. But
Yeah.
I taste a honey character.
And I have a vague tickling in my mind that we got honey notes from it when we initially tasted it.
It's
So
possible.
I think it's just the combination of everything that we put in there
Dark dried fruit
gives
can
it
sometimes
that
do that.
velvety feel that makes you think the sweetness is from honey.
Plus, I'm so used to brewing with honey.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But I'm not getting the bitterness on the back end that I get with
No.
honey. So
No.
that tells me this is not a mead.
No, it is a wine.
Yeah. This is very nice. I see why she likes it. It's more her thing than mine. But I can appreciate it for what it is. And that's the secret to homebrewing too, is you may not love everything you make, but if you can appreciate it for what it is and the qualities that it has, then you can evaluate how well you did and be able to be unbiased. Yeah, that's awkward. In your next brew and be able to do things that you want to do rather than go, oh, well, I just didn't like that one, and starting over from scratch. Learn from the experience and get better each time.
I remember when we were coming up with the concept of how we were going to brew an actual wine based off the Klingon wine, blood wine idea, is that we were just coming in with all these harsh notes, and we weren't being discordant
There's
on
coffee in this.
purpose, but we felt like that grit, that roughness was
Yeah.
appropriate for
But blood wine's actually sweet.
the Klingon blood wine. And we knew that
Worf liked his young.
Worf liked his young and sweet. So we were going to use that as our sweetness gauge. But all those weird things that we put in here come together
Really nicely.
so nicely that if I pick one and try to mentally remove it from the mixture, it's just wrong.
Kind of breaks the balance.
It's wrong. And it's one of the things that I love so much about this brew is that this is a concept beverage, and the concept, the application, the final result is infinitesimally better than what the actual concept was. So that's just wonderful.
So far, you've liked both of those that we did, though, the Fey wine and the Klingon blood wine.
This one I like more than
Sure,
the Fey
sure.
wine.
But you liked the Fey wine,
Yeah.
too.
The Fey wine, I to me, when we were making
Concept
that,
was better than the reality.
yes, it
This one, the
sounded
reality's better than
like
the concept.
that should be a lovely beverage, and then when it wasn't as lovely as it sounded like it should be, and what it smelled like it should be,
Oh, yeah. It smelled way better than it
then
tasted.
that was really disappointing. This seemed like it was just we were throwing everything but the kitchen sink in together, and how could that possibly be something so wonderful? Well, it is. It is.
I'm impressed with this one. I have to admit, this was not my favorite when we've tried it before. It was good. Wasn't, like, overly enthusiastic about it. It was good. I try to be as honest as possible. Derica can't not be honest. It's like a thing. She's like a fae. She can't lie.
It's really bad. It's really bad.
No, it's really good. It's kind of awesome. You can ask her anything, and she'll tell you the truth.
And if I
In a
just
good or bad way.
if I
but
just
she will.
pause and look at you, all you have to do is just read my face.
That
I
means
have
you don't wanna
I don't
know.
have to say anything. Just read my face, and you're like, oh, okay, it's that bad, huh?
Yep. Why do you think I've become a better cook? Because she gives me honest feedback.
I actually try not to make eye contact if it's. I'm just eating my food.
For the most part, I take it pretty well.
But he's a really good cook, so it does help. I don't have to avoid eye contact.
Yeah. Overall, super complex. Lots and lots of things going on in this. But let's move on. Pairings. This would be great to have anything that you would have a red wine with.
Gak.
I've never had gok that I'm aware of. Although when I was a kid, supposedly I did eat a worm once, which is the closest thing to gok. I don't remember doing it, but someone told me I did. This would be great with desserts. It would be great with like a wine, a cheese and crackers and fruit. You can eat this with pasta, with like a marinara sauce, lasagnas, things like that.
Pizza.
Yeah, pizza. It's a little on the sweeter side. It's not sweet, but it is a little sweeter. So you want to kind of pair it with things that would offset that sweetness or complement that sweetness. It would go great with like a red meat or pork and things like that. I don't know about chicken as much. Chicken might be a little too bland. This is quite powerful.
On how the chicken was.
Yeah, it depends on the dish.
Yeah, if it like barbecue chicken.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. This would actually go really well with spicy barbecue.
Yeah, like Korean barbecue.
Yeah. As far as cooking with this, I would put this in chili. I would definitely put this into like tomato sauces and things like that. The rich, heavier stuff, even like a little bit of a beef, lamb, or pork stew, I would put this in. Probably not as much, but I would put it in there. It's got a very red wine reminiscent flavor. So it, as much as it's very powerful and has a lot of complexity, it still has that neutralish. When I say neutral, it's not really neutral. It's a generally accepted flavor. How's that? It's easy to accept it as a wine rather than it's something really unusual. But as you drink it, you'll go, oh, this is just not a regular red wine. This is unique.
It's red wine plus.
Yeah. As far as putting it in a mug and sipping it, oh, heck yeah. This is at room temperature, which is the way we do our tastings to get the most out of the flavors. Cold, I think might tone it down a bit too much. I don't know that I'd like it cold, but she's done it cold.
I drank it cold last night and it was fine, but it wasn't nearly as exciting as it is at room temperature. So I think...
I'm getting grape all of a sudden. Well, that's the plum.
There is grape in there.
Oh, there is grape. Huh, well, that's why I get it now. It's awesome when you actually taste things that you put in it. By the way, in case it hasn't been mentioned, we intentionally don't watch the other videos or read what's in these so that what we experience is what we experience. It may sound like we're just being goofballs and we don't know what we're talking about, which, you know, to some extent, maybe you're right. But realistically, we're tasting this beverage for the first time, fresh, on purpose. Because if you hand this to a guest and don't tell them what's in it, they have no idea. So we want to have sort of that experience. That way we can truly describe what we're feeling, experiencing, and tasting rather than, oh, I know this is in there. Because once you know, you know. You can't unknow it.
Yeah, and there's no point in knowing what the ingredients are if you're actually not experiencing that in the beverage.
If it doesn't come through, it doesn't work.
When Brian, went on about the honey that he was getting, that was the experience that he was getting because of the sweetness and the velvety texture of
it definitely
the beverage.
feels like and tastes like honey.
So it feels honey-like.
So to me, there's honey in here. It's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But yeah, this is good. It's much better than I remember it being, and I think the year has given it even more improvement. Derek has enjoyed this one all along. It's not really my wheelhouse. This is a lot more fruity than I tend to go.
It is 110% my wheelhouse.
Yeah, definitely. But do you have a score?
Sure.
I do as well. 1, 2, 3,
10.
9. Okay, I'm lower. Our scale works like this. A 1 is you wouldn't give it to your worst enemy and it's possibly toxic.
It's toxic. You can't have this.
Yeah. A 10, it's, for all intents and purposes, perfect. It cannot be improved without drastically altering the recipe so much that it's unrecognizable as itself. A 5, though it is in the middle, actually is a good number. It means we like it. I would drink this. It's something I would reach for intentionally. I gave it a 9 because, to me, I think it's a little too sweet. That's my biggest complaint. I think it's just a little bit too sweet. Now, I know when you take the sweetness away, other things get out of balance and things like that. That's why it's not a 9.5, but it's a 9. Because if only the sweetness was necessary, then it would be a 9.5 to me. But it's a 9 because I feel like I would have to play some balancing with the various ingredients to really make this better and still have the complexity and balance that it has. So it's not just the sweetness level. There's other things that would have to come into play. So while 9 is a phenomenally good score, it's not perfect. There's room for improvement, and I kind of have a couple of ideas. I don't know if we'll be revisiting this anytime soon. Maybe like 2025 or something. We'll do a Klingon Blood Wine 2025.
And by then, I'm going to have a full cosplay outfit.
I'm surprised she doesn't already.
I researched it. It's really difficult to have a good-looking Klingon outfit. There's some really awesome cosplayers out there, but their products are expensive.
So you gave it a 10. other than it's perfect and you love it?
I am going to put this in a means that most people, particularly those who love chocolate, can understand. If I had a choice between having a chocolate or having a glass of Klingon blood wine, I would choose this.
Why? You're the one that said it. When you can't just
Why
throw
are you complicating my simplicity?
you can't just throw that out there and then not explain. You have to back up you must prove your work.
I'm going to punch you.
I hated that when I was a kid. The answer is 42.
Okay, the
Can you
reason
explain how you got
why-
there? No, but I'm right, aren't I? Doesn't matter how I got there.
The reason why this is better than chocolate is because it has so many more layers
Yes, I licked her hand.
than chocolate. And I'm just repeating myself. I love layers. This has layers. I love this beverage. The end.
We do a lot of 1 year tastings where we age something for a year and taste it. But what about 2 years? What did you find?
I found my favorite Klingon Blood Wine. I've been spending nearly every waking hour in the room behind this wall, and that is our storage room. So, in
Cat
cleaning
room,
that out,
washing room.
I
storage
found
room.
not one, but 2 bottles of Klingon Blood
Oh, wow,
Wine.
really?
Which I thought were completely gone from existence. So I was super happy. I posted it in the VIP. There was much excitement. And we got this overwhelming response of, that's 2 years. You got to do a tasting. So here we are.
Just a quick refresher. This was bottled on June 3rd of 2020. This is the end of May, so we're close. And this is 15%. And that's all I got. Klingon Blood Wine, 6/3/2020, 15%. That's all that's on this label. We put more on the labels now than we did that.
Yes, we're getting better. We're learning. We're bigger, stronger, faster.
But I'm gonna guess it was actually started a couple months before then. So, it's 2 years old. Color,
Dark.
it looks like the
Thick.
description that you would get of Klingon Blood Wine from Star
Viscous.
Trek. I mean, it just does, Ooh, on the smell.
It is heady.
Oh boy.
Heady is the word I'm going to say.
See, I never got the coffee on this before,
It's-
and now I
It's
do.
in there.
The coffee comes through on the smell.
You
now.
can smell the coffee. You can smell the capsaicin from the chili.
I don't get that.
I do.
But I'm getting some sort of a cherry or a fruit.
And then there's dark fruit, like
I forget what we put in
plum
this.
or...
We did not put prune juice in it
We did not.
because that was never in Klingon Blood Wine. Worf just liked to drink it because he called it a warrior's drink, but it was not in Blood Wine. He even drinks it when he's on Deep Space Nine.
It's lovely. It's just lovely. It's so complex and so unusual.
The level of complexity on the aroma on this one is amazing. I'm trying to put it into words. I'm sorry, I know I cut you
No,
off.
no, it's fine.
I get, and it's gonna sound really weird, but the aroma is coffee, berry, with a little bit of like a honey sweetness and almost a floral note. But at the same token, it comes across more aggressively than you would think those things should.
Yeah.
Making this really interesting just on the smell.
Like if you had a coffee liqueur and a
Yes.
cherry liqueur and a floral liqueur and everything was just a liqueur and you dump that all into a thing, it would be this.
Maybe, sort of. I mean, this...
Smell-wise.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, I'm gonna taste it. Oh boy. Wow. Okay, first thing that came to my mind is smooth. This is not like punch you in the face, but it is. The flavors are so powerful, very, very strong flavors, but they blended incredibly well. I was not a huge fan of the Viking Blood. Or not, this isn't Viking Blood,
This
the Klingon
is-
Blood Wine.
This is so good it could bring me to tears, honestly.
Well, let's hope it doesn't.
I'm so happy.
All right, let me take you on a little trip. As it enters the mouth, I'm greeted with a cherry sweetness that's backed by dark fruit. Immediately after that, I get the coffee earthiness coming through that fruitiness. The sweet still stays, so the coffee comes through really, really nicely. Then I get a little bit of the acidity coming back, I get a touch of the capsaicin heat. It's like a 2. It's not much, but I do get a little bit of a spicy note coming through on like the 3/4 of the palate. The finish, though, is actually quite clean and crisp. It's not very long. It's very fruity, though. Lots of fruit on that finish. There's no astringent note. There's no nothing. But this, I would swear, this shouldn't jiggle in the glass. Like, it should be like solid and just kind of...
It's like a Jell-O shot.
It really feels so viscous and rich and thick. If you think about like a very rich Pinot Noir or something like that, that fills your mouth and your taste buds, you taste all the flavors. This is easily 5 times as powerful flavors as that. And I'm not even exaggerating. It really is that powerful flavors. Everything seems more concentrated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll shut up now.
My only difference to his description is I'm getting more of the capsaicin, and not in a
It doesn't
painful
recede
way,
over time.
more of an experience way, where
Yeah.
like it is there, it is showing itself.
Now I'm feeling it
It's not hurting
after.
you. It's friendly. It's taking your hand and saying hello.
Oh yeah,
how
it's like
are
a
you?"
2 out of 10. It's not strong,
Yeah.
but it's one of those, if it wasn't there, you probably wouldn't know. But with it there, it adds to the experience.
And I'm getting it, and maybe because I've taken more drinks than Brian has. But when he was doing his travel thing and I was doing this motion, I was getting the coffee and the capsaicin coming through that sweet cherry and dark fruit combo at the same time.
Okay. Sounds good till
And-
later. But spices affect you a little bit more than they affect me now.
Yeah, and it's weird because your palate changes, what is it, like every 7 years or something?
Because years ago, I liked spicy food, but she could do hotter spicy food than me, and it didn't bother her.
Spicy food like it's nobody's
And
business.
now I can eat really spicy food, doesn't bother her.
Now I can't
That she doesn't
even
really.
eat raw onions without going, whoa.
Yeah.
It's kind of disappointing, but it's okay.
We just gotta wait a couple more years and she'll be
This, however, is not disappointing whatsoever.
No, this is really, really amazing. I was never a huge fan of the Klingon Blood Wine. I remember when we first made it, I was like, okay, this is pretty good. And then we did the 1 year, and I was like, all right, this is okay. This is really good. I'm very impressed with this.
All right, I just got a brand new sensation with that last sip.
Uh-oh.
While Brian was talking,
You know what I've
I
tasted?
drank it,
I know what I'm getting at.
and I said, chocolate.
Yep, that's exactly what I was just thinking. Dark chocolate.
And I'm like, oh boy, how do you make Klingon Blood Wine
It's the
better?
coffee.
You make it taste like chocolate.
Yeah, I was already thinking that. As soon as you said, I was like, yeah, I already know what she's gonna say. Yeah, the coffee mixed with the berry is coming through as chocolate.
And I think you're only going to get that after you continue to drink it. See, he's always concerned because I'm a bit of a spaz. Shocker, I know.
People say I talk with my hands.
I'm a spasmo. So if you drink it initially, you get the travel notes, and then you're like, oh, that was good, and so you drink it again, and then you drink it again, and drink it again, and occasionally, after you continue to drink it, those notes
Chocolate-covered cherry.
start to blend together.
Yep.
And so adding the coffee, adding even the capsaicin with the cherry notes.
You know what I get? A cherry covered with chocolate, wrapped in a jalapeno.
That sounds good to me.
That's kind of what this is tasting like now.
Initially, the first thought that came to my
Are we
mind
scoring this? I mean,
was
do we- yeah, we
warm blanket.
We don't do 2 years, so we're scoring this. But you know what? Okay, for the 2 year, I'm sorry, you were talking. The warm
It's
blanket.
okay. It's okay. I was just the warm blanket sensation is what I was getting from this initially, and
Here, you need more.
now I'm getting chocolate, and so I'm just like, it's just so nice. I don't know what to say.
I'm being sparing with the pours because we only have 2 bottles of this left, and we have another tasting that we have to do today. All right. I'm going to change the scoring system for this.
But you saw what I did with my extra pour. I just
You
chugged
can
that
have
bit
more. You want more?
No.
Drink all you want, baby.
I need to save this. I need to relish this.
All right. Our normal scoring system is 1 through 10. There have been a couple times where we went past 10. And I feel that the 2-year mark is kind of a little bit different. We need to be more harsh in our judgment. We need to be more precise in what we say, because this is as good as it's ever going to be.
Oh, yeah.
It should not get any better than this. So there's no excuses anymore.
There's also something I want to say. I'm sorry to interrupt
No,
you.
you're fine. I interrupt you all the time. So
I
quiet.
found these last 2 bottles, and without even thinking, without hesitation, I immediately put them both in the mini fridge.
Oh yeah, this is refrigerated. This is cold.
So this is chilled. This is at room temperature.
Yeah, we usually do things at room temperature.
This is chilled.
I wonder if that's making a big difference. Capsaicin tends to be a little bit reduced when it's cold. It could make things taste a little sweeter too. But I'm okay with that. It's fine. I think that's the way to serve this, in all honesty.
Yeah.
A little chilled is the way to serve this. But my scoring system, our scoring system, 1 through 10. 10 means you would choose this above all others. Not necessarily perfect, because there's no such thing. Perfect is very subjective. But if you had a selection of all of the stuff in front of you, you would choose this. That's a 10. If it goes past 10, that means it's not just you would choose this, you would actively seek this out to drink above all others, okay? 1 is possibly toxic. You know, not something you really want to drink. You'd probably dump it out, okay? For me, anything 4, 5, or above is stuff that I would reach for willingly. You know, I would drink it. A 2, a 3, yeah, no, probably not going to drink it unless it's like, okay, it's all we got. I guess I really want to have a drink.
I don't think we've ever been in that situation.
No, you see behind us, right? I mean, we just don't have that kind of situation. So for a 2-year though, the numbers may seem lower than expected simply because we're going to be a little bit more critical. We have to be, because we don't do 2 years, okay? But this needs to be, because there's no excuses at this point. This is as good as it's ever going to be. So be hard on it.
He's talking to me, not to you.
Yeah.
He's talking to me.
Yep. I have a score. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, 11.
Ah, see, he fooled me. I was gonna give this like a 1,000, but
This is on par with my spice method for many, many reasons. And what's amazing to me is that I was not a fan. The 2-year mark really changed this. It made it something very different.
I think the chocolate note.
The chocolate
bumped it
coffee note with a little bit of capsaicin balanced this out so beautifully well that I'm saying this is equal to my spice methylene as far as what I would want to reach for to drink.
Oh.
That's a strong statement. If you watch our show, you know how I feel about the spice methylene. But this has the spicy notes. It has the spice notes, but it also has a little bit of coffee, which is a thing I really, really appreciate. And it has a little bit of fruit, which I like fruit too, just not fruity things. She likes fruity floral. I like fruity spicy. That's the difference, okay? So this covers all the bases for me.
It certainly does. And there is absolutely, positively nothing I would change about this beverage
That's why I gave it an 11.
other than making a lot more when we initially made this.
I'm gonna make a statement here. This may actually even be better than my spice methylene. And here's why. My spice methylene technically stalled and was a little bit oversweet. This is not overly sweet. It's just sweet enough to balance out the acids and the tannins and the spice and all those. That makes this just, maybe this is even an 11.5. I hate to keep going up because we'll be doing 20s and 25 before you know it. But this is really
It's
that
42.
good. I'm not even,
I would say this is a 42.
sure, it's a 42. I have to say I'm a little bit blown away because I was less than impressed when it first came out. I was less than impressed at a year. I know you liked it, so I just kind of shut my mouth and let you enjoy it because, if somebody's enjoying something, let them enjoy it.
Yes.
You start ripping apart something that they like because they like it, who's wrong? You're wrong.
You're wrong. Exactly. And part of the reason why I enjoy this so much is not only the complexity and the layers, because I'm a big fan of
It's an onion.
complexity and layers.
And an ogre.
Hey, Brian.
I'm an ogre.
Is
that's for sure.
is that
Do I smell funny?
shush.
Am I an onion?
It's a beautiful experience. It's a beautiful standalone drink, and it's a beautiful pairing drink.
See, that's where I disagree. I can't pair this with food.
Chili.
Maybe.
Chili.
Maybe. That's about it.
Chili.
If I still ate steak, maybe. But I don't eat steak.
But chili.
Maybe. It's a maybe. To me, this is one of those experiences. You pour this in a mug, you sit down, you got a few hours, you know, watch Guardians of the Galaxy or something like that and enjoy it. Yeah, that's what this is.
There's certain food things that I could just eat, regardless of the time of day. One of those is chips and salsa.
Yeah, this will go with chips and salsa. I agree.
This would go with chips and salsa.
I agree. You know what this is? This is high octane sangria. That's what this
See,
is.
that's why I like it so much.
This is high octane. Yeah, because it's more aggressive. It's got many, many, many more flavors. This is like, the flavor on this is turned up to 42. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Just a tiny sip is giving such a burst of flavor. It's a similar experience that I get from drinking whiskey. This is something that happens in our house all the time. I will reach for whiskey over any of our meads or ciders or wines, if given the option. And there's a reason for that. I can pour 2 fingers of a whiskey and sip that for an hour. Take a tiny little sip. Each sip is a burst of flavor. Meads and wines don't do that. This is an exception. This one actually does that. So does my spiced metheglin.
Yep.
And I think those are the things that I'm more drawn to. It's not really the flavors that they give, it's the fact that they have so much flavor.
You like that impact.
Yep. I need things to taste aggressive. Now, as my tastes are changing over time and I'm getting more in tune to drier things, more things are starting to taste like that. So it's kind of interesting.
So, Klingon Blood Wine, is it worth the 2-year wait?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
It's worth a 10-year wait to taste like this. I don't think 10 years is a good idea.
No.
Don't get me wrong. But at 2 years, this is absolutely incredible, you guys. So maybe we need to start doing 2-year tastings. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching and have a great day.
Bye-bye.